My parents bought a car. It's a Genesis. I was like, oh, does it come with Phil Collins in it?
Welcome to Namely 90s. Wow. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
That's right. You're listening to Namely 90s. My name's Andrew, and there's Brandon.
That's me.
You can find us on namely90s.com or on, Threads and Instagram at Namely 90s, I guess. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/@namely90s. And if you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/namely90s and get signed up for one of our support levels. Hello and welcome.
La, la, la. That's a Seinfeld thing.
Why is it so hot in here?
Good question.
Jeez. Oh, man.
78 degrees.
Oh, I ate too much.
Good? No. I did the same thing. What did you eat? Why eating?
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti?
Yep.
The good old spaghetti tacos?
Just regular with salad and bread and other things.
Salad should clean you out.
What did you have?
I'm sorry. We both seem like out of it and dead.
I am.
Yeah, same. And I don't have a major melon today, so.
You have spaghetti too?
No, I said I don't have major melon, so I'm like, I'm out of it. I had Chinese food leftovers from yesterday, but like we ate like maybe a fourth of it. And then I ate the rest of it tonight, so I had at least double what I ate last night. Well, I guess there was appetizing soup, but Americanized Chinese food, and that put me into a coma for like 2 hours, and then I woke up and wrote this episode.
I was walking out of the grocery store the other day. Like I went in to get a couple things, and just like on TV, every time someone goes to the grocery store, they're on TV or like in movies, there is a unwrapped baguette just sticking out of like the paper bag. Mm-hmm. Well, I did buy a baguette, and I was holding the baguette in one hand, like in the wrapping. I'm not an effing animal. And in the other hand, I've got my bags of groceries, and I'm walking across the drive area, and I don't walk that fast because it's me.
Right.
And this car just like slowly rolls by, and as it gets past me, someone leans out the window, and they're like, "Lay off the carbs." And that's the moment I knew that I was a fat person.
What an asshole.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Kayla likes to remind me of that. She laughed when I told her what happened. Oh, man.
You have a fun life.
I should have yelled back, "It's for your mom." Hey-o.
The carbs?
The baguette.
Gotcha. Ooh, because phallic in nature.
Or it's a fat joke. I'm not sure which.
Yes.
Anyway, so there's that. I'm now overweight enough that people are commenting on it in public.
I mean, shot from your tits down. You don't wait. Tits up. You can't tell.
That's good.
On the podcast.
So that was my embarrassing moment of the week.
Embarrassing moment of the week. I couldn't remember Coolio's song that goes slide, slide, sippity slide at trivia and wrote down Will Smith.
Someone I know, this reminds me. It reminds me of that episode of Family Guy where Peter goes to the Apollo Theater with Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And they're all in there.
The reparations episode. Or Peter finds out he's part black, and then Yeah. And then
Peter's in there and they're talking about like how the black comedian is talking about how with the Exxon Valdez, it wasn't an oil spill. It was just someone fell into the ocean and had too much jerry curl or something. And Peter's like, yeah, and all those seals died. And then like everyone in the audience looks at him and he just like sees himself out. So someone I know told me about this thing where they went to a funeral for someone in New York, in Little Jamaica, where I once stayed outside of JFK to get a flight.
Right.
And she was the only white person there when she arrived like a few minutes in advance because she got stuck in traffic. And then, so she got like a bunch of weird looks and she accidentally sat in the reserved seating for family. It's just through the whole thing. And they keep talking about this thing called like the 5% Club or something that this guy was a part of. And it was like a real big part of the whole ceremony. And then like a few days later, she Googled it and it's just like this really crazy, like black supremacy group.
Wow.
She was like, oh, okay, well, let's speak about embarrassing. Anyway, it's kind of funny. I feel like if we get to have a bunch of white supremacist groups, they definitely should have those, but just saying.
Fair. Yes. I mean, better if we don't have either, but
no, I'm just saying, yeah, but if we're going to have...
Bring the white supremacy down to the amount of black supremacy there is.
I agree. But one thing that I thought was funny is when people describe the party after a funeral as a wake, because that's the opposite of what the person is. Okay.
Speaking of which, Andrew's going to see himself out. I was getting a breakfast burrito this morning, and while I was waiting, there was this old man chatting up someone closer to our age, and like you can tell that they did not know each other, but they're like sitting kind of at the same table, but just like separated, and he was just going on and on and on, and then like suddenly he like turns and he's like, you know, my grandson said he came home from school the other day and he had 25 crushes, and I asked him what a crush meant, and he said it means when you really, really love someone. And the first thing out of it, and I asked him, oh well, who do you have a crush on? And then the first thing out of his mouth was the name of a young Oriental boy. I'm just like,
no. I think crush is when you mix like fentanyl, crystal meth, and citrus together. Citrus pop.
Have you been traveling through Portland recently?
That's crush. This is going to exist within like 5 minutes of this coming out. Yeah, man, I'm on some crush right now.
The reason I brought it up is he continues on. He's like, and you know, that's great. Good for him. And I was just thinking, you know, we need less white supremacy in this world. And I'm like, I kind of just like look up because I hadn't really paid attention to what these people look like. Old white man, of course. And then the other guy is like, looks like maybe Hispanic or half Hispanic. And then he's like, he just starts going on like this. You know how old people are like.
I have a story. Yes, continue. But
they're like, some of them are like really good about being positive for equality, comma, they use all the old jargon.
Yes. This reminds me. So I was at my uncle's farm when I was younger, like 10, maybe 14, I think 14. Okay. So I was there twice. And my uncle had this like business kind of partner. His name was Clark. He was older than he was. And he was like this old white farmer dude. And like, he seemed fine, but like in retrospect, he seemed a little creepy. I don't know. Like, I think he was a fine dude, but
do you have repressed memories that you're just,
no, but you could just, I don't know. He was just interesting. And I remember I was like with him in the truck once because he had to like go drive out to like feed the cows or whatever. And it was fine. It was all kosher. And
oops, my ball popped
although
out.
At some point,
just push that back in for me.
This might be like a ploy, but he was like asking me about like the girls at school or something. This story just gets worse and worse. And I was like, yeah, I guess I like this one or whatever. And this person was like Asian or something because we went to school in Western Washington, so like everyone was Asian.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he goes, well, I don't know if I can say it. Yeah. Well.
Oh, that one. Oh.
He says, "The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice." And I was just like, oh dear God. In retrospect, that's worse than it was when I heard it at that time. But oh my God, this guy. Anyways, like the old codger saying sketchy things is totally right.
Well, yeah,
that was in quotes, by the way.
Yeah, this guy used like every possible version of a woman's private parts
no
slang that, like, he's like, you know, us guys, we're just all about the, and he's like, you know, I had my first wife for 21 years and now my second wife, I've had her for 31.
Wow.
Like, couldn't handle having to marry a bimbo because in my young age I wanted to just make the bimbo better, but she never got smarter. Just like, this is his ex-wife and mother of his children.
This is horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, this really got away from us here, didn't it?
At least he thinks there should be less white supremacy in the world.
Yeah, that's the moral of this story.
Jesus. Yeah.
And the moral of the point of what I was saying is that we need more supremacy groups.
Or no, the darker the berry.
We don't need more supremacy groups. I'm just saying, if like, I don't think the white people should get to have all of them. If they're going to have them, there should be some counterpoint to that. But no violence, please.
I mean, I think I've seen some like black supremacist Twitter accounts, which it doesn't sound as like threatening. I don't know. They're gonna come after us now.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean, black Twitter is very humorous. I can't contribute because not black, but there's this whole subculture on well, Twitter doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
I read the root.
Elon Musk sounds like a type of fragrance.
God, that man.
Yeah, he's really lost it. They don't even have to cast the next Bond villain. He just is the next Bond villain.
He's essentially the old Bond villain. Like
he looks like Mads Mikkelsen, actually.
He looks like Blofeld from like the old, like the Connery Bonds. Like,
did I tell you I saw a woman who looked like Mads Mikkelsen the other day, and it was really creepy?
Doesn't he have it? No, he has a brother.
Yeah, it was like a woman version of Mads Mikkelsen.
I mean, he has a very defined angular face that I can see.
And he has that messed up eye. Oh wait, no, that's just in the movie.
He has the eye that you can just pull out of your face and throw.
Oh, well, we've now gone like 25 minutes on the intro.
It's only like 12, 13.
Okay.
Let's get in the deep dive then.
Let's dive deeply.
Yeah. I have a bait and switch in here. So collecting culture hit a fever pitch in the 1990s with speculative markets promising high returns in a market that was too oversaturated with product to actually make money on anything. Beanie Babies, McDonald's toys, comic books, Pogs, Trolls dolls, Micro Machines, slap bracelets, Hot Wheels, and Magic cards all come to mind. As a Beanie Baby collector myself, I even purchased those magazines that speculated how much money each Beanie Baby was worth, when in reality, they weren't worth anything at all.
Yeah, really. Things are worth what people are willing to pay for them.
Right? Exactly. And but like the market was so flooded with everything. How can the scarcity?
The supply demand doesn't
exactly
work.
And I like to think this came about as a result of like the classic comics from the 1930s and 40s. They were selling for high prices in the 90s because tech geeks got rich, and this was before the bubble burst. And
before they made a superhero movie every 15 seconds.
True. Actually, it was like coming back into the pop culture because of Burton's Batman. Action Comics #1 broke the $1 million mark. That's the first Superman comic from 1939. And it broke the $1 million mark in the 90s. And it kind of sent the media into feeding the speculative market and bringing to the masses like this information, the masses who are too dumb to understand and think about this critically. So they would then just scoop up every comic book they saw, thinking it would somehow be worth something in the future, which it wasn't, because the 90s was the most mass printed amount of comics. Like the most comics were printed in the 90s. So again, same with Beanie Babies. If there's too much of a product, it's not rare enough to be worth anything. And everyone thought it would be worth something in the future, regardless of what it was. This kind of spread over to other niche things, like we were talking about Beanie Babies, Pogs, other toys that were cheap to begin with no intrinsic value, collectibles. Yes.
That's funny. I was laughing.
Collectibles from kids' toys franchises were big as well, like Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, and the classics also kind of were steady there too, like baseball cards. I had a shoebox full of baseball cards when we were kids. But some of these collectibles could actually be used and be played with, like the toys I just mentioned. But what if we could make something out of trading cards, like a trading card game? Make it more engaging. And that's where Magic the Gathering dared to ask, or that's what Magic the Gathering dared to ask when it launched in 1993. It was a collectible card game, or a trading card game, which combines strategic deck building with the elements of trading cards, cool artwork, booster packs, a varying rarity of cards, etc., etc. Generally, a starting player is able to buy like a pre-built deck and then modify it using cards from booster packs purchased separately. Every game has its own set of rules and has like a head-to-head competitive play in this whole trading card game world. And cards are released in sets. Magic's first set had 300 different cards in it. And you may remember this name. It was published by Wizards of the Coast, which was, I believe, based out of Seattle.
That sounds very familiar.
There was a Wizards of the Coast store in the Northgate Mall. But Wizards of the Coast published another highly popular trading card game in the 1990s. In December of 1998 / January of 1999, they started publishing the U.S. and international edition of the Pokemon trading card game, which had been going in Japan since 1996. Which was published by Media Factory over there at the time. The original base set of the Pokemon trading card game, this is the topic for today. Welcome to the bait and switch.
Yeah.
Did it twice. Booyah. Because, as we all know, last Friday, Netflix released the final batch of episodes of Ash Ketchum in his 25-year journey of being a 10-year-old. And yeah, so Pokemon's done, kind of. And next Monday, on the 22nd, they're releasing the original 151, an expansion pack for the Pokemon trading card game featuring the original 151 Pokemon. Anyway, the original base set was released on January 9th, 1999, with 102 cards. 69 of them were Pokemon.
Nice.
25 of them were trainer cards, and the rest were energy cards, which was water, fire, electric, fighting, psychic, grass, and double colorless at the time. There were 16 rare holofoil Pokemon cards, which were Alakazam, Blastoise, Charizard, Chansey, Clefairy, Gyarados, Hitmonchan, Machamp, Magneton, Mewtwo, Nidoking, Ninetales, Poliwrath, Raichu, Venusaur, and Zapdos. And if you remember, Andrew, what was the most popular of those 16 cards?
Charizard.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
The one I never had. I think I had Alakazam, I had Blastoise, I had Clefairy.
I'm sure he did.
I had Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had the Raichu and the Zapdos. I wanted that damn Charizard because it was the best card in the set. Anyway, the Pokemon trading card game is a strategy-based card game that is usually played on a designated playmat or digitally on the official game client, which is currently called Pokemon TCG Live, where two players, assuming the role of Pokemon trainers, use their Pokemon to battle one another. Yeah, we're going to talk about gameplay. Just bear with me through this. Pokemon that has sustained enough damage from attacks that reaches or exceeds its HP, hit points, is referred to as being knocked out. And you get a prize, or the opponent gets one of your prize cards. or their prize cards. And then further mechanics in the game have like Pokemon V or EX that get you extra prize cards when they're knocked out. Taking all 6 prize cards is the most common way to win a Pokemon trading card game match, whatever you want to call it. The other ways to win are by knocking out all of the available Pokemon your opponent has in their active area and on the bench, or by your opponent running out of cards in the deck. You or your opponent running out of cards in the deck.
Right.
It's all coming back to you now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I remember the little like energy cards.
Oh, yeah. Who goes first is determined by a coin flip. The player going first cannot attack or play a support card on their first turn unless they have a card that specifies otherwise. The players shuffle their decks and draw 7 cards. They have to have a basic Pokemon in their hand, or else they have to reshuffle until they get one. And every time you have to reshuffle, your opponent gets to draw another card. And then from there, play alternates between players who may take several actions during their turn, including playing additional basic Pokemon, evolving the Pokemon, attaching energy cards, playing trainer cards, and using Pokemon abilities and attacks. The turn ends when you use your attack on the other person, and all effects and whatever are done.
Are
wording,
done.
Yes. Are used up, whatever. It's finished. Yes. And then their effects from attacks are activated and damaged. They may be dealt on defending Pokemon, and depending on like typing, it could cause double, or it could have resistance on the attacked Pokemon. And then they alternate play until one of them wins through one of the above conditions. Card types. We have the Pokemon cards, like we mentioned, but that's the Pokemon that are on the cards. They depict one or multiple Pokemon from the franchise with 1 to 2 elemental types and 1 or more attacks or abilities and they all have certain amounts of HP. There's basic Pokemon, which you can play immediately, and then there's stage 1 and stage 2, which are the evolved ones that you have to play on top of your basic Pokemon that evolves into it. And there's also special mechanic evolutions. They have attacks, they have powers. It's all interesting stuff. And then since that base game, every generation, there's some new iteration of something stupid. There's Pokemon EX cards. There's Pokemon capital EX cards that if they're usually stronger, have more HP, but then if they get knocked out, they're worth like 2 prize cards. GX or VMAX, and V cards. VMAX Pokemon, when knocked out, get 3 prize cards, and you can only use 1 per... I think that's the one. Oh, maybe it's GX. One of them, you can only use 1 attack per game. So they're kind of worthless, but super powerful in tanks. Yeah,
that's funny.
And then let's see. The next type of card is the trainer card, which performs various effects to the game, like healing Pokemon, discarding energy, retrieving cards from your deck or discard pile.
I'm good at discarding energy.
Yeah, same. But just not using it up to burn fat on my body.
Yeah.
And then later expansions, there's stadium cards and other like hyper specific trainer cards that'll like affect the gameplay in other ways. And then finally, the third type of card is energy cards, which you attach to your Pokemon, which allow you to do the attacks or whatever.
But it has to match that energy card for that attack, or just for that Pokemon, I guess, or both.
Generally both. So the attack can cost like 1 to 4 energies, and usually it's of the same type as the Pokemon, but there's also the colorless energies, which you could put any energy on for. And there's also in later cards like the Dragon Pokemon typing, which is not one of the original base typings. They'll have attacks from different energies like water and electric.
Earth, wind, fire, and dragon.
Exactly. Classic Captain Planet, Earth, fire, wind, rock. Wait,
normal.
Earth, fire, wind, water, dragon. Yes.
Psychic.
Exactly. Well, yes, there's grass, fire, water, lightning, psychic, fighting were the original 6 energy styles. Then darkness and metal came about after the 2nd generation. And then they added fairy and dragon later on. Fairy has its own type and energy card. Dragon does not. Yeah. So those are 3 main types of cards. And just want to talk quickly about, they started like having in-person meetups where you would learn how to fight. And I found this 2000 press release from Toys R Us. Toys R Us has announced that thousands of kids have been flocking to the toy retail chain to sign up for the Pokemon League. Sponsored by Toys R Us, the free leagues lets kids meet and play the popular Pokemon trading card game. The Pokemon League at Toys R Us are great fun for all children who participate, and they're tremendously popular with kids and parents alike, said Michael Goldstein, CEO of Toys R Us. Like, Toys R Us, for those of you who are too young to remember, is a toy store that went out of business, but are now in the Macy's, I think. The kids that participate under the supervision of adult gym leaders who teach them about the game or assist them in instructing others. That's not a sentence. The leagues provide participants with an opportunity to learn from more experienced players or to become a certified coach and teach others. Kids can learn points for playing and earn badges just for coming to the league. It's free and it's a lot of fun. The Pokemon League is designed around a series of 6-week training sessions. Kids can earn special badges for each session, similar to the badges that can be earned in the Pokemon video games. So I think I went at least twice to the one at the Everett Toys R Us. It was in the back.
Yeah.
They had like fold out tables, and I earned a Boulder badge and I earned a Cascade badge, but it sucked. What they describe here is like the idealized version of what happens. We had like a teen who had no idea what was going on and was just like, yeah, whatever. Did you play that person? Sure. Here's a thing. And then I just like noticed that he was using just like a green Crayola marker to mark off like all these things. I'm like, oh, I can level up just by using this green Crayola marker I have. And that's how I got my Cascade badge.
That place is now, like, the front still looks like a Toys R Us, and I think it's like either a bouncing place or a trampoline place.
Oh, that's actually a good use for those.
Yeah.
They're quite big.
And the other one on Linwood turned into an Ashley Furniture.
That, I can see that. That's too bad. And then from there, it evolved into actual league play. And like, there were 3 quote unquote, first Pokemon World Championships in the Pokemon community. 2 for the trading card games. 1 was originally in 2002 at the Seattle Convention Center. I was not there. But the first official Pokemon World Championship was in Orlando, Florida in 2004, and it has been held annually since. It was a place for the best Pokemon trading card game players to come and play each other. And in 2009, it finally incorporated the video games as well, like the mainline series. It used to be like a mall tour before that. And then 2015, they added Pokken, which was like a Tekken style fighter with Pokemon, like an arcade fighting game. In 2018, they added Pokemon Go because there's a PvP aspect to that game. And in 2022, they added Pokemon Unite, which is a MOBA or multiplayer online battle arena. Oh my God. I think I'm having a nosebleed from that. Was added. That I actually remember that. And then in 2003, which was this year, then the first year they used it they hosted it in Japan, Pokken was dropped from the World Championships.
Womp, womp, womp. And now let's go to Brandon for the Namely 90s Minute.
Welcome back to Namely 90s Minute. Every week we look back at a culturally relevant show, movie, or piece of pop culture that probably helps stoke the algorithm. This week, in honor of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon premiering and the longevity of zombie movies, we're looking back at one of the most memorable zombie movies remade in the 90s, Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is a 1990 horror film remake of the original 1968 film of the same name. Back when George A. Romero made this film the first time, they forgot to put in the copyright for it, and it became public domain, so this is the only quote-unquote official unofficial remake of the film, as George A. Romero rewrote it for this modern at the time take. The film stars the Candyman, Laura Dern's stunt double from Jurassic Park, Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Johnny from the original film. The story starts with the adult siblings Barbara and Johnny heading out to visit their mother's gravesite. Johnny doesn't want to be there and starts to tease Barbara that the dead are alive and says the classic line, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." Little does he know, they actually are. The pair is attacked by a zombie and Johnny dies while Barbara escapes from more and more zombies. She meets a man named Ben who saves her, and together they make their way to the farmhouse and clear it of zombies so they can barricade inside. They discover other survivors in the house's cellar, a family of 3 whose daughter is ill after being bit, as well as some teenage lovebirds. The group argue about their next course of action, where to hide, what to do, etc., etc. Ben and the father have a scuffle, causing a divide between everyone. The family stays in the cellar and the rest of the survivors stay up top. The people upstairs decide to try and escape in Ben's truck, but need to refuel it first, so they drive out to the gas pump. But Ben falls off the truck and is forced to fight his way back to the farmhouse by himself. The couple, who made it to the gas pump, realize that the key to the lock on the pump isn't with them, so they shoot the lock, igniting the gasoline and exploding themselves, the pump, and the truck. Back at the house, the situation devolved as the father had wrestled Barbara's gun away from her, and once Ben returns, there's a standoff as the daughter has died and turned into a zombie, but her father is defending her with Barbara's gun. She bites her mother and then comes for the rest of them. The father and Ben get in another scuffle and both are badly injured when Barbara shoots the daughter. The father scurries upstairs while Ben goes into the cellar to die and then finds the gas pump key. Barbara leaves the house looking for help and finds the charred corpses of the couple before finding a group scouring the countryside for survivors and clearing out the undead. Barbara passes out and wakes up the next day in a fortified camp with a bunch of survivors. She goes back to the farmhouse and finds Ben now a zombie, so she shoots him. Then the father stumbles downstairs alive and she kills him for causing all that trouble. And that's George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead in a Namely 90s Minute. More or less.
And now, back to the show.
Take it away for... Wait. So, I was going to say, take it away, Furbdon. So, under Wizards of the Coast, they had the base set, like I said, and then they had some expansion sets. They had the Jungle, which started holo and non-holo rare cards, which really cool, guys. Really cool. There were 64 cards in the set with 45 new Pokemon. Then there's the Fossil expansion with 62 cards and the first appearance of Ditto. Then we had base set 2, which was, get this, within a year... maybe 2, a re-release of the original base set and Jungle set in one set.
Oh yeah, remember Jungle?
That was base set 2. Yeah, Jungle was there. I remember Fossil and then kind of dropping off after that. There was Team Rocket. I might have had some Team Rocket ones. Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge, which was the last of the only Gen 1 Pokemon. Then we got 4 Neo expansions: Genesis, Discovery, Revelation, and Destiny, or as I wrote, Destiony, featuring Generation 2 Pokemon, which would be Gold and Silver Pokemon. And then the Legendary Collection reprinted the first 4 sets, which was base set, Jungle, Fossil, and Team Rocket. Over the 5 years, Wizards of the Coast published more than a dozen expansion sets for the game, allowing the company to sell millions of cards and make more money from Pokemon than they had made from Magic the Gathering in its first 10 years. Hasbro had made a deal to buy Wizards of the Coast in September of 1999 for $325 million, which was based off the strength of the Pokemon license it had. But in 2001, Nintendo created its affiliate Pokemon USA Inc. so it could recover the US licensing rights to the game.
Gotta take them all.
Nintendo. In June 2003, Nintendo transferred the publishing rights from Wizards of the Coast to the Pokemon Company. And then Wizards of the Coast sued Nintendo on October 1st, 2003, and accused them of poaching employees and violating his patent, which was settled out of court.
Are you sure that Scooter Braun didn't buy the rights? I think he's trying to compensate for his name being Scooter.
Is he from the Von Braun family?
He's the one who bought all Taylor Swift's music, I'm pretty sure.
Oh. Yeah, definitely compensating. Since Nintendo and the Pokemon Company recovered the trading card game rights, they've released every set from Generation 3, which was Ruby and Sapphire, onwards, with about 15 expansions per generation. And we're getting the fourth expansion for Generation 9 on Monday, next Monday. Podcast time, focusing on all 151 original Pokemon. During the pandemic, let's just talk about the collectability of the Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards are sold at stores in many different formats, including pre-constructed decks, booster packs bundled with promo cards, sets. God, that's a confusing set of words. Booster boxes of 36 booster packs or just individual packs. Subsequently, you can get cards available through e-commerce websites and individual sellers, but you should be worried about getting fake cards that way.
Yeah. It's like buying pharmaceuticals from Mexico.
That's okay. Yes. The Pokemon card collectibles are worth different values based on their levels of rarity. Although sometimes lower rarity cards can be worth more than high rarity ones. It depends on the popularity of the card within the competitive play, or the age of the card, the number of cards printed, and various other factors. From lowest to highest levels, card rarities are indicated by the shapes on the bottom corner. We have uncommon, which is a circle. We have common, which is a circle, uncommon, which is a diamond, and rare, which is a star. In a single booster pack, you can pull 10 cards in total. You get 5 common cards, 3 uncommon cards, and a reverse holographic of any rare, and sometimes of any rarity, and sometimes a rare card, if that makes sense. But starting with last generation, Scarlet and Violet, current generation series, each pack has 1 holographic card as well as 2 reverse holographic cards. Cool.
That's
that's better. Unlike the basic and uncommon, rare collectibles are divided into a bunch of subgroups, which have holo rares, reverse holos, half art, full art, secret rares, ultra rares, rainbow rares, and other weird mechanics.
How can a card be hollow?
But so like when we were kids, we just had the hologram. The hologram was in the picture. Reverse holo is the picture is normal, and then the background of the card is holographic.
Right. Yeah.
And then half art is I don't know what half art is. I know full art is the art expands all the way to the edge of the card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then let's see. That's boring. I have a list of the top 15 most rare and expensive Pokemon cards. I don't have the pricing though. You're welcome to look that up yourself. From least to most, we have the 20th anniversary 24 karat real gold Pikachu, followed by pre-release Raichu, Master's Key, Espeon, and Umbreon Gold Star Pop Series 5. The 2002 Pokemon World Championship #1 trainer, the 1996 Pokemon Japanese base set no rarity symbol Holo Venusaur, 1999 Pokemon Japanese promo Tropical Mega Battle Tropical Wind, 1999 Super Secret Battle #1 trainer, 2006 World Championships promo #2 trainer, 2000 Pokemon Neo Genesis First Edition Holo Lugia #9. We have Kangaskhan Holo #115 Family Event Trophy card. Black Star Ishihara signed GX promo card. Pokemon Blastoise number 009/165R commissioned presentation Galaxy Star hologram. Whoa. At #2 we have 1999, first edition Shadowless Holographic Charizard number 4. That's the one that we all wanted. Right. And at the top, we have a PSA graded 10 Pikachu Illustrator. The Pikachu Illustrator is the rarest and most expensive Pokemon card ever sold in history. It was acquired by douchebag Logan Paul for $5,275,000 in July of 2021.
I guess it's celebrity and collector, and you just couldn't read it. Like, giant.
I translated it correctly.
This is the person who thought Oppenheimer was boring because it was all talking.
Yes. Also the guy that went to Japan and filmed a YouTube video in the suicide forests. But unfortunately he didn't kill himself.
Trigger warning. Sorry.
Created as a trigger warning, Logan Paul. Created as a prize for the 1997-1998 Pokemon Design Contest, which was organized by the Japanese manga magazine Koro Comics, which I would buy every time I went to Wajimaya in the not Little Tokyo, Soto, no, International District of Seattle. And there were only 41 copies printed. It's the only Pokemon card to say Illustrator instead of Trainer, like the other Trainer cards. And it was illustrated by Atsuko Shida, who was the original designer of the Pokemon species, including Pikachu. Yes, it's the most expensive card ever sold. Other low-grade versions have sold for high prices elsewhere, including there were 2 cards sold in 2020 for about $233,000 and $2,000, give or take, respectively.
Wow.
A third card was sold in 2022 for $772,000. During the pandemic, some popular streamers and YouTubers would stream themselves opening boxes of booster packs. This and Logan Paul's stupid habit of buying rare cards for dumb prices led to scalpers buying up as much Pokemon card packs as they could, limiting supplies during the pandemic. There were fights at Target. Do you remember this?
I do.
For people trying to get Pokemon booster packs, and also over sports cards. It was kind of a weird time. Even got to the point. Yeah.
I was just say, people think the reason that millennials can't afford houses is because they eat too much avocado toast, but in reality, it's because they're spending $700,000 on a piece of paper.
Exactly. Although he probably has multiple houses. It even got to the point where assholes our age were out buying Pokemon cards at McDonald's meant for Happy Meals. Bought out the Pokemon cards at McDonald's meant for Happy Meals because millennials have this thing where they just, everything from their childhood has to be theirs and no one else can have it. Yeah. There's also other controversies that popped up while researching this. I may have mentioned this in the other Pokemon deep dive I did, but Kadabra hasn't been in print in Pokemon cards for almost 2 decades. In November of 2000, Israeli magician Uri Geller alleged that Kadabra's spoon bending and the Japanese name Yongera were unauthorized appropriations of his identity, leading him to sue Nintendo. He learned of the similarity after fans of both himself and the Pokemon noted the similarities between him and Kadabra. He remarked that the lightning patterns on the abdomen of Kadabra with the Wafen SS and that Nintendo had turned him into an evil occult Pokemon character.
Oh, no.
Yes. A director at Nintendo denied this, stating that they had no knowledge of any Pokemon named based on the image of any particular person. But in 2008, Pokemon anime director and storyboard artist Masamitsu Hidaka stated that Kadabra would not be in use in the Pokemon trading card game until an agreement was reached on the case, which kind of sucked for people who had the Alakazam card because couldn't evolve them from Kadabra. But in November of 2020, Geller told The Gamer that he received emails from Pokemon fans which convinced him to drop the case and allow Nintendo to bring back Kadabra, who is going to be in the 151.
Oh, so that was at the end of a storied career. No.
Of Uri Geller. Or Kadabra.
Who?
He's a magician.
Okay.
He's probably as popular as David Blaine.
Really?
In Israel.
Okay.
In March 2023, a player was disqualified from a regional tournament for a Pokemon card tournament for allegedly laughing when they were asked by the game official for their pronouns. He claimed it was a nervous laughter and a misinterpretation by a non-binary official. It's a teenager, and he still supports pronouns and says don't use this as an excuse to be a dick to trans people. But he was forced to leave the venue, which his parents were also playing at, and didn't have a ride to his hotel or a key to his hotel room. And also an underaged.
That's okay. You can't slightly laugh at that question, but you can say questionable things and still become president? I don't understand.
Right. So the story or his defense was he was nervous. He gave his first two pronouns, couldn't think of the third one, laughed, and then remembered because he did he, him, and he couldn't remember his. And then laughed, and then the official got uppity about it, and then didn't think anything about it until after the first round. Then he was taken aside and told, "You're out of here, kid."
That is not a disqualifiable event. Sorry.
I agree, but in the rule books, there's something about inclusionary whatever.
I think it's hard to interpret a laugh because there's no words said.
Yes, I again agree, and so did the community, but it offended one person, so it offended everyone. Is the justification for kicking a teenager, a minor without his guardians out of an event. This generated backlash from the community, and there was a fundraiser created to help cover the teenager's travels and lodging costs, which raised over $3,000. Because apparently this kid cleans up at tournaments. He's placed in like top 3 a lot in the last year or so.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Which you can win money for. Yeah. And so in general, the Pokemon trading card game took Magic the Gathering and made it more friendly and accessible to kids. I know it's not the exact same game, but the idea. And then they made it more and more complicated over the last 2 decades.
Of course.
Yeah. It also allowed for Yu-Gi-Oh! To have a similar longevity. I saw a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards at Target the other day. Like, what? As well as there was a Dragon Ball Z trading card game, which I know I played with one of our friends from childhood, and other lesser cash grab card games. Inspired 2 Game Boy games of its own, which focused on playing the trading card game in the game, but in like an RPG style overworld, similar to the main series, kind of. It also can be played online or in an app with 2 different iterations. 2011's Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, which was finally continued this year for 2021's Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. Wizards of the Coast reported in early 1999 that it had sold 400,000 packs of Pokemon trading card games in less than 6 weeks of its release. In 2016, it was the year's top-selling toy in strategic card game subclass. In 2017, it had an 82% share of European strategic card game markets. And finally, as of March 2023, this March, the game has sold over 52.9 billion cards worldwide.
Wow.
And that is Pokemon the trading card game.
It's something like 6.6 cards per person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane.
6.5. Well, we got rid of all mine, but I don't think I had any actual value. Wait a second. I might have them in the garage.
Ooh. Mine, I think, are in storage somewhere. I know. So I saw that the Zapdos that I had is worth a couple thousand.
$1 million.
If it's the right era, like if it's the first edition, blah blah blah, and in perfect condition, with PSA rating of 10, it's like $400,000.
I'm about to bust these guys out tomorrow.
Yeah, it might be worth taking a look and getting them graded and see if they're not all moldy.
Well, they are in the plastic sleeves.
True.
Like in a binder, the binder sleeves.
The binder sleeves. Hopefully hasn't like gravitied them into any bent shape. That's still probably somewhere between like a 6 and an 8 on the collector scale. And that's it for this week's deep dive edition of Namely 90s. Remember, you can find new episodes out every Monday. And join us next week for another variety show episode. Find us on Instagram and YouTube at Namely 90s with 90s. And tell us what you want us to talk about in future episodes of these deep dives. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know what it was until like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
If you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Namely90s. Also, 90s Pokemon cards are encouraged. Finally, you can also contact us through our website, Namely90s.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, TCG, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeart, Good Pods, and wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Brandon. That's Andrew, and we'll catch you next time.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Pokemon!